A cup of murder. Mrs. Horace takes 3 sugars in her tea. She knit a scarf in 2 hours and murdered her husband with an axe. She's also dead. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when the old woman materialised in my kitchen. She sat at the antique wooden table and untied the ribbon on her bonnet. Fruit and cheese scones. You really are spoiling us, she said, exposing the rope wound around her neck. She readjusted her head, securing it back in place, and sniffed the homemade strawberry jam. Where are the others? I stood at the cauldron on top of my stove and threw a sprig of cypress into boiling water as the liquid bubbled to the surface. Bang! Well, hello there, Kitty, came a woman's voice from behind me. I turned around to find a blonde, bobbed bombshell with a blood-stained arm outstretched to shake my hand. As I moved to reciprocate, our hands passed through one another, as if gently reminding us our worlds were not one and the same. I'm Lucy Jones, but you can call me Twinkle, the woman winked, with a slight shimmy of a 1920s papa dress. Come and sit down, wee dearie. There's plenty to go around, replied Mrs. Horace, offering a crooked smile. And what about me? Whispered a voice in my ear. An icy twinkle surged across my throat as the silhouette of a dagger passed over it. That's not going to work, sweetie, Twinkle laughed, crossing one leg over the other to expose her thigh. The dead can't harm the living. Point well made, said the woman, her withered hand removing the blade. She shuffled across the floor with her black cape trailing behind her. The woman sat down without so much as a glance at my other 2 guests. An awkward silence filled the room as I placed a plate of cucumber sandwiches, minus the crusts, of course, onto the table. The pristine tablecloth, with its daisy pattern, looked absolutely decadent under the array of French fancies, slices of Hissarine and Victoria sponge. Come and join us, sugar, Twinkle said, patting the rainbow-striped cushion on the chair beside her. One moment, I replied. The tea is almost ready. As I took my place between the flapper girl and the black widow, I began pouring the bubbliest of chamomile concoctions into bone china cups. I suppose you are all wondering why I summoned you here, I said, setting the teapot down. Mrs. Horace, failing to lift its horn, replied, "Are we not just having a good old time? The weather is lovely." "Indeed it is," I agreed. "Very warm this time of year. You know, I saw the first signs of daffodils in the haygarden this morning," Twinkle announced. "Oh, how darling," I chuckled, adding a splash of milk to my tea. The black widow grunted. "What is it you want?" "I want to kill my husband," I said, offering the sugar bowl to each of them. "1 lump or 2. Mrs. Horace banged her fist on the table. "Oh, I love a good murder." Outside, a wood pigeon chirped a merry little song, and a bin lorry rattled along the street. The incessant noise of dodgy brakes, empty beer bottles being dumped into the cart, and foul-mouthed men swearing filled the kitchen. "I just love getting rid of bodies," Twinkle added, removing a cigarette from her stocking. "Do you have a light?" "I'm sorry, I don't," I replied. "Can it interest you in a bakeware tart instead?" "No matter. These things kill you anyway," the blonde bombshell smiled, as the cigarette evaporated into thin air. The black widow leaned forward as though welcoming us into his conspiracy circle. One by one we joined her, and for no particular reason lowered our voices. "Why do you want him dead?" she murmured. "Does it matter?" Mrs. Horace replied. The Black Widow paused and thought for a moment before sitting back in her chair. "No, I don't suppose it does." Smearing a ridiculous amount of butter onto a scone, I shook my head and chuckled. No, it's a reasonable question. I'm looking for a new hobby, and murder seemed like the obvious choice. Book clubs had never really been my thing. Mrs. Horace screwed up her face and patted my arm. Too full of intellectuals. "It was more the canopies," I said. "They just went up to my standard, you know." The 3 women nodded in agreement. "But why your husband?" Twinkle asked, with a slight malicious glint in her eye. "Was he on a toot with some little starlet?" Mrs. Horace looked confused, and so distracted herself by watching the bubbles in the cauldron overflow onto the cabinets. The Black Widow, not paying attention, attempted to slice her knife through a dollop of jam sitting in a pot. Once, twice, 3 times she tried before giving up. "On a toot," I said, taking a sip of tea. "Out drinking from dusk till dawn with a harlot in tow," Twinkle replied, with a roll of her eyes. I took a bite of scone and considered the past 20 years of my marriage. The mortgage was paid off last September. Our 2 children were both at university. One was studying criminal law, and the one more still worked perfectly well. As far as I was aware, there had never been any starlets or harlots. "No, nothing like that," I stated. "I just thought it best to start small. Someone I know who I'm not emotionally attached to, and take it from there." "That's what me started," added Mrs. Horace, gazing off into the distance. "One night I took a good look at my Alf and decided I wasn't polishing his boots no more, so he had to die." "Me too," Twinkle interrupted, laughing. "My daddy was doing the dirty with my own mother. Well, that was that. Dead and chopped into pieces. Those crumpets look lovely, by the way." Handing Twinkle the plate, not that she could hold it, an overwhelming sense of pride took over me. "Yes, my husband made them." "Bless," replied Mrs. Horace. "He's a good man," I added. The 3 women smiled, and, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the Black Widow may have blushed. "I still need to kill him, though," I continued, pouring myself another cup of tea. A tear appeared in Twinkle's eyes. "You stick to your guns, sweetie," she said, attempting to take hold of the crumpet. "We're right here for you." "What is it you want us to do?" came the Black Widow's voice from under her hood. "Our killing days are over." "Perhaps some tips on how to go about such things," I suggested. For the next hour or so, the 4 of us dissected the numerous and varied ways of the Pepper murder. It turned out that Mrs. Horace didn't stop at killing her husband. She then went after the local butcher and baker. If it hadn't have been for her daughter discovering her mother's collection of corpse trophies, the rumour had it that the local candlestick maker was next on the list. Poor Mrs. Horace was hanged the following Tuesday. Top tip: don't keep bodies in the house. Twinkle proved to be just as unlucky. A ground for hire, that's what she called herself. Whenever a lonely housewife suspected her husband of straying, they called in the blonde bombshell to investigate. 9 times out of 10, the rotten scoundrels were found in some rather uncompromising positions, with their trousers round the ankles. Twinkle's job was simple: kill the bastards. The police never guessed that a young pretty thing could be capable of murder. That was until she got carried away was disposing of her own sweetheart's body and got caught mid-burial. Top tip, never become emotional. The Black Widow refused to divulge any details about her own misfortunes. She did, however, mention how much she loved my pinafore, with its rosebud and sunflower pattern. Apparently, I was looking pale, which was a cause for her to become overly concerned. Top tip, murderers can show kindness too. I don't want anything messy, I said, taking another bite of crumpet. We've just had the carpet shampooed. It needs to look like an accident, Coorie replied, deep in thought. Does your husband have any hobbies? Other than baking, he does like to. I winced as a sharp pain hit my stomach. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's come over me. I told you you look pale, the Black Widow shouted, jumping up from her seat. Honestly, I'm absolutely fine. It's just excruciating stabbing pain. Perfectly normal, I replied. Any other ailments? Asked Mrs. Horace, with her brow set in a deep furrow. Gasping my chest, I feigned a faint chuckle. No, I just feel unbelievably cold. Death warmed up. Nothing to be alarmed about. Oh dear, Twinkle said, moving to stand behind me. Ladies, we are about to have some more company in the graveyard. What do you mean? I replied. Have you had anything else to eat? Asked the Black Widow. Just as scones and crumpets, I said, stumping forward as the world around me turned hazy until finally everything was dark. I awoke, standing next to Twinkle, without any heartbeat or need for breath. Mrs. Horace put her arm around me and cried, Is your husband or your hobby murder by any chance?